Good evening and welcome to Bronx Talk. The primary was August 23rd, and we now have three candidates who will represent the Democratic Party as nominees in the state Senate districts in the Bronx. And this evening, we're going to spend a few moments with each of them, Giustavo Rivera, Nathalia Fernandez, and Robert Jackson. So let's get started and start off with Senator Giustavo Rivera. He is the incumbent in the 33rd Senatorial District, and he won the nomination for the Democratic Party in the fall. Congratulations, Senator. Let's see, it was a 51-46 victory. You won the primary without the support of Bronx County Democrats. Are you mad about that? Do you kind of look and say, hey, what about me?
Sir, why would I be mad about continuing to do the work that I love and I'm so happy to do for so long? My constituency reelected me. I'm incredibly happy about the fact that the work that my staff and myself have done for the last 11 years, we will get to continue to do. There's still much work to do, both on the legislative side and the community side. I now have a new part of the Bronx that I've not represented before that I will get the honor to represent. No, I'm not mad at all. I am incredibly proud of the work that we did to be able to win, and looking forward to continuing to do it.
Does it affect relationships that you might need as you move forward with Jamal Bailey, who's the chair of the Democratic Party, Jeff Dinowitz, who's representing a district that now overlaps with yours, he, of course, in the Assembly? Does that make it more difficult to get done what you want to get done and build the kinds of relationships that are needed to, create a unified Democratic Party in the state Senate?
My loyalty has and always will be to my constituency. The work that I do, both up in Albany as a legislator, as well as a representative here locally, is about serving the folks who I represent. And when possible, when it is, because it is ultimately up to them, much like it was up to the county organization to decide to support me or not, it is up to the elected officials with whom now I cross over to elect to work with me or not. I will continue to do the work that I've always done. And if we are to focus on governing and on making sure that we serve our constituency, then they will work with me and my team. But ultimately, as I stated earlier, this was a choice that they made to go down this road, and it's a choice that they'll have to make to see if we can work together.
There was another so-called wrinkle in this particular primary election. There was $300,000 in outside spending.
Oh no, sir! It was much more.
All right. More. What's your estimate on the amount of money that PACs spent, frankly, to attack you?
Well, partly it was not an estimate. There'll be some final reports that'll come in soon, but I believe there's certainly over the $1 million mark. There were three different independent expenditures that were just blatantly lying about my record and about what I stand for and who I am. And to the tune, I believe that we were up to about 1.4 million.
I didn't realize that. I was looking at reports that said it was about $300,000. But that's a significant amount of money in a local race, to say the least. You came out strongly against it. Others didn't. It's a federal statute that allows it. Is there something to stop this in the future? What do you think about this, frankly, interference in the general public's ability to get a clean and fair election with accurate representation of who the candidates are?
I certainly think that unfortunately it is something that has to be solved at the federal level. This is a result, as we know, of the decision that happened a few years ago from the Supreme Court on Citizens United decision. We've heard about it before. This is what it means on the ground. It means that dark money organizations can spend enormous amounts of money. And we're talking about national Republicans, real estate interests, charter school money, financiers, a lot of people that spent a lot of money, which, apparently for them grows on trees, to lie about someone's record. And I'm not the only one that they attacked, but I'm the one that they attacked with the biggest stick, if you will. But unfortunately, it's something that, because it was decided at the federal level, that money is speech, and that there's very little that can be done by states to limit it. this is kind of what we're stuck with for a while. But what I can tell you is that what this campaign showed, and this is why I'm incredibly happy and proud of the work that we did, because what the campaign showed was that ultimately my constituency saw the work that I have done. We were able to communicate with them about what my vision is for the folks who don't know me. We got to introduce me and see the work that I've done already, and they were supportive even with just the torrent of lies. And also, it demonstrates that the constituency that I have is a smart one, and that they saw right through the muck.
And you put out a release. You were disappointed that the other side did not, criticize it and say that this wasn't right. I guess at this point, nothing to say. You won the primary, so I guess I'm just guessing that you simply move on from that.
Well, I think I will tell you that for me, ultimately, this is and always will be about the work and serving my constituency. But I can tell you that it's deeply disappointing that, particularly when so much was said that are outright lies. I mean, Gary, if I had to have the conversations that I had to have over and over again, explaining to people how I am not an anti-Semite, which was a direct product of much of the lies that were told about what my positions actually are. And the fact that folks, when have given an opportunity, did not just say that they separated themselves from it. That is kind of all that was necessary, but they did not do it. Well, that's something I'm going to have to live with. But ultimately, I think, again, I have a smart constituency, and we did a lot of great work in the last 2 months to be able to tell people like, hey, let me tell you about who I really am, what I really stand for, what my positions actually are. And as I told many voters, if I tell you what my votes actually were, what my positions actually are, and you decide that you cannot support me, I will respect that. But all that I wanted to do was to be judged based on the things that I have actually done and the votes that I've actually taken. And ultimately, what my constituency decided is that I am worthy to represent this district, and I will do in the next 2 years. I'm going to make sure that I reconnect with all these folks, not only to thank them, but to talk to those folks who did not vote for me, to make sure that they know that I work for them too. And I'm committed to continuing to do that work.
We only have time for just one more question. Let's just talk about the new section of the district, Riverdale, which you will be representing.
And also Allerton. Allerton is also new.
That's true.
Yeah.
You got about a minute. What are you going to do to make sure that you fully understand what those voters want? And by the way, there is a November election. I don't know if you're going to be challenged or not, so let's not make any assumptions. Yep. But
well, between now and the end of the year, and certainly I think that there's a minor challenge in the November election, but I'm pretty certain that given the makeup of this district that I will be the senator going forward. Between now and the end of the year, my staff will do what we do for the rest of my district, but in this case, we will get to know all these folks. We will go to community board meetings, to precinct council meetings, to meet up with leaders of community-based organizations and nonprofits and tenant associations and synagogues and churches, etc., to get to know all these new places in the district. And I want to get to this is the part that I really like. I'm going to go have meetings with 10, 20, 100 people and say to them, I'm not here to ask you for anything.
You want them to tell you.
Listen to you.
We do got to run. Senator Rivera, congratulations on a hard-fought primary. We'll see how the November elections go. And one way or another, I'm pretty sure we'll have you back on Bronx Talk. We appreciate your time.
Looking forward to being you.
And we'll see you around town. We're going to take a very short break, and then it'll be Nathalia Fernandez. And right after that, Robert Jackson. Don't go away. All right, back with you on Bronx Talk, and I'm thrilled to welcome in the Assembly member from the 80th Assembly District. She won the last week's primary with 61% of the vote. She will be the Democratic nominee for the Senate in the 34th Senatorial District. Congratulations to Assemblymember Nathalia Fernandez. You must be pretty happy about it.
Thank you. Of course. Who's not happy with winning?
Of course. Why do you think you won? I mean, this was a competitive race. Christian Amato, I know you know that he's certainly a very a respectable candidate and made a nice presentation, but you defeated him. Why do you think that is?
I think I won because of what is known of me. I'm not a new face in politics. I do have name recognition that I think probably helped get the word out more, or at least familiarize the voters with who the candidates are. And my ability to be able to outreach everybody and connect with them at where they are, the issues that matter most. I think that's what really brought it home for us.
If you are elected in November, we understand there will be a GOP candidate. How do you see the new job as a senator compared to serving in the assembly? Is it essentially the same thing, but of course in a different body, a different house, maybe a different dynamic? Or do you perceive differences in things that you might need to do?
I mean, I always think that myself can do more, can be better, to improve for the community, and help the community to improve. But as a senator, this certainly is the higher house in the legislature, and it's a smaller body. So our votes really do matter, I think, louder than maybe in the assembly, because it is one or two less votes in the Senate could make or break a bill passing, as opposed to in the assembly with one or two less votes from the majority. So there definitely is a lot more eyes, a bigger microphone, and I think an ability to really deliver for the community when it comes to the resources that we need desperately.
The race seemed to be a kind of a classic modern case of a progressive in Christian Amato, and you, a candidate who was seen as more moderate. Among state Democrats and across the nation, there's a continuing tug of war between progressive and moderates within the Democratic Party. Is that hurtful to the bottom line of getting things done in Albany? Is it a problem, do you see, especially anticipating, as you say, a Senate where each vote matters even more?
The only problem, I guess, if there is a problem, is when a compromise cannot be met. I do believe democracy is a compromise, because in bicameral houses like ours, we have to get to a common ground. And sometimes there's a lot of pushback on both sides. Republicans sometimes are so stern in their position, they don't want to move, they don't want to negotiate. And sometimes that's said about the progressive left of the party. But I really think that, to move forward, we have to agree on something somewhere. And that's what I look forward to being a part of, creating the compromise, still pushing forward in the direction that we need to go with many of these areas, and getting to the main goal little by little, but always making sure that we are progressing.
There's been a lot of analysis of the entire primary and comparing whether party-supported candidates won in some cases. And for example, in the case of Giustavo Rivera, the candidate who was not supported by the Bronx Democratic Party won. Did the party make an error, let's say, in that judgment? And then how do you see things going forward? Because he's obviously, I mean, assuming he is reelected as well, he's been the chair of the health committee. We assume that's going to stay. How do we get people together? And do you perceive an issue, let's say, with him or Robert Jackson, who is also not supported by, the party regulars? How do you just see that whole dynamic and what you need to do as a senator?
Well, me, myself, for my time in this world of politics as an assembly member, we have to be bridge builders. We have to be able to connect again on the common ground, unite in the values and the efforts that we want to see happen, and to really come to a place that we are agreeing and moving forward and adding that change that's needed. When it comes to Giustavo and Robert, I think that, all of us have the same motive. Let's move forward. Let's get back to work. It was unfortunate that the party was split in a few ways, but everything is a learning lesson. And that puts us back in a place where we know where we need to start from, and we know where we need to go to create the the homeostasis that we all
There you
know is
go.
possible.
All right, a little stability in Albany, that would be a remarkable concept, so to speak. The controversy is out there. There is a groundswell of a local commentary, if you will, and activity on this whole Bruckner rezoning thing. I know we talked about it during the debate. I want to pursue it a little further now that you're closer to becoming a senator. I look back at it, and you said that the current proposal doesn't have the infrastructure of schools and other things that are needed to put it there. In the interview we did with Borough President Gibson, she said she was disappointed about the rhetoric that's out there and that the mischaracterization of people who are need affordable housing or maybe even homeless and need housing. What do you, and let me just add one more thing. She said that she would support the project if it was scaled down, if the 8 stories were 5 stories, which was equivalent to a school building. What are you going to do here to, number one, tamp down the rhetoric that's harmful, and number 2, move things forward? One way or the other.
Well, hearing the proposals as it's been evolving, we've seen that, yes, the building might get lowered a few floors. I think that's helpful to hear that, the proposed housing is going to go towards certain demographics that need it, like veterans, like seniors. Those things, do make it easier to grasp. But I do worry that the infrastructure is not going to be able to hold just the building itself. It's not about the people, my issue. And yes, I agree the rhetoric, has been harmful, because anybody that had lost their home and is trying to get into a home, and then they have the home, why do they still need to have that title as being a homeless person? So this is rhetoric we have to get around.
Before we run out of time, let me go back to what the borough president said, which I'm just going to state, which you clearly agree with. She said, before we do these things, let's get all the city agencies involved, the DEP, the Department of Buildings, and everybody else, to really understand how we're going to do this. Sounds to me like you think that's a good idea, rather than have a developer make a proposal and then everybody react to it.
Yeah, because there's a lot of things happening underground that we don't see. So even if we can fix directly what's under this project, the rest of the area needs to be able to connect and work.
Last question. You get up to Albany, things are settled, you got your office settled, and now you take a deep breath. What's the first thing you're going to say, I got to work on, and now I'm going to attend to right away?
Environmental conservation is one that I've been vocal about from last year to now in this campaign, and getting back to the agenda in Albany. I want to see us move forward in a lot of the initiatives that have made steps towards to getting real resources brought back to the community. Back to my conversation of infrastructure, we need to see that the investments that the state is creating is coming back to this neighborhood, that we're able to now fix the streets, that we're bringing resources to the homeowners on the water side. So that's something I'm going to start.
We got to run, Assembly member, if you are elected in the Senate in November. I'm sure we'll have you back, and we'll talk about the state Senate at that time. Congratulations again on your primary win, and we'll see you around town. Robert Jackson of the 31st Senatorial District is next. Don't go away. Okay, welcome back to Bronx Talk. This is the third of the state Senate candidates who won in the primary. So we are going to welcome, for the first time on Bronx Talk, all the other elected officials have been on many times. It is Senator Robert Jackson of the 31st Senatorial District. He won in the primary with 58% of the vote. He will be the Democratic nominee for the 31st Senatorial District, which now includes a section of the Bronx. Nice to have you with us, Senator Jackson.
Well, thank you for having me and being introduced to the Bronx, even though all of my family live in the Bronx. So, well,
that's good to know. And maybe that should be our first question then. What do you know about the Bronx? How do you see the district that you'll have, which is in kind of the north part of the Bronx, the Kingsbridge and Kingsbridge Heights area. How do you see that district? Is it similar to what you've done before? Do you have to learn new things? Just tell us how you view that part of your, assuming that you win, your 31st senatorial district.
We're going to win. I'm confident that we're going to win based on the fact that we won the toughest race, which is the Democratic primary. But let me tell you, I said earlier that my family lives in the Bronx. So I grew up in the Bronx from 1963 until I left to move to Manhattan in 1975. I graduated from junior high school, 120 Paul Lawrence Dunbar, right there on 163rd Street near Colbert Avenue. So I do know the Bronx. I played basketball right at the Sedgwood houses right near the 181st Street Bridge. And then on the other side is the little playground. I played there when I was in high school. So I'm pretty familiar with the Bronx. But obviously, this is new to me. I've never represented the Bronx, but I'm coming home. I'm coming home. My family members are very happy and proud of me and my accomplishments. But 1/3 of the entire district is in the Bronx now. And people said, well, what area do you represent? Obviously, Morris Heights, University Heights, Fordham Heights, Cambridge Heights, and the little parts of Riverdale. And my team and I, we drove around the edges of the district some time ago when we found out that that's the area that we will represent. So I'm looking forward to getting my hands in there in the dirt and mud and wash it off and let's get going. And one of the things that I do want to do is initially host some town hall meetings in the end of September, beginning of January, because some people think that I will represent the district right away, and they're coming to me for constituent services. And I say, whoa, wait a minute.
You got to know. You got to know what it is that they want.
Yes,
just
January 1, 2023, I will represent the area because obviously there's a general election, and I have to be sworn in before that time.
Right, Senator. Let's get into some of the nuts and bolts of what happened. You had some rather pointed remarks in City and State about Congressman Espaillat's influence on the race. Even suggested that the election was democracy rather than a dictatorship. Strong words. In another hotly contested race, Giustavo Rivera, who was just on the show, also won without the support of county leaders. How disunified or unified is the Democratic Party right now, and will it make it difficult to get things done in the state Senate this year?
Oh, I think that the Democratic Party will be unified in the state Senate and in the state Assembly, understanding that both houses are led by competent individuals. Obviously, Andrew Stewart Cousins, our majority leader, there's 63 New York State senators, with all of us coming back with 43 in the Democratic majority. And then you have 150 members in the New York State Assembly, headed by Carl Heastie, the Speaker of the State Assembly. They have a supermajority. So I don't see any problems in us unifying around the issues and concerns that impact our constituencies. And so that's going to be a no-brainer, in my opinion.
There was about $70,000 in outside spending from corporate interests. Giustavo Rivera also had about $300,000 spent against him by those so-called political action committees, the PACs. It's a federal statute that allows it. Is there any way of stopping that from happening or dealing with that? Or is it one of those things, if you want to run for office, you just got to deal with somebody out there who's going to spend money and say something?
Well, if that's a federal thing that's allowed, the only way it can be changed federally. But if it's a state thing, we should look at it from our perspectives. Obviously, as I indicated before, but both houses, the Assembly and Senate, is led by competent individuals. And knowing that in my race, for example, I think hedge funds, charter school, and real estate industries poured in money. And then, as you know, there's a time limit where if you receive more than $1,000 within a certain time frame of the election, it must be reported in 24 hours. And, I knew what I reported, but I saw line after line after line, 7,500, 7,500, 7,500, 5,000, 5,000, 5,000 interest I guess that, in my opinion, some people want to influence the electoral process so that they would have a say in the direction of the New York State Senate
Right.
and or the New York State Assembly. And I say, to the benefit of all those who believe in democracy, we won on that. And so,
and that's why you had said that democracy won. I want to just get to some issues when you get into Albany this year, because you have served, of course, for a number of years. What's first on your agenda? What are the first couple of things? What are you hoping to see in the next legislative session?
I'm hoping to see us deal with education, deal with affordable housing. Major issue right now is that rents are so damn high. That person who ran for mayor said the rent is too damn high.
Yes. Well, he was right about that.
I think he's right when it's saying overall that an apartment in Manhattan is $5,000, and you and I know that the people in my district in northern Manhattan and in the Bronx cannot afford $5,000 a month for rent. So we need affordability, and housing is a human right for everyone. And so the influence of real estate to try to sway the election one way or the other, it has failed. And so democracy will be moving forward in the New York State Senate and the New York State Assembly, in my opinion.
When the state budget, we were running out of time. When the state budget was passed, there was enthusiasm for the $31.5 billion allocated for schools, $400 million for CUNY and SUNY. But because of a shrinking school population, the city council voted to shrink that budget. Where are we at now in education? What do you think the education system needs? Is it funding or is it something else?
It needs a leader that will focus on what the needs are in our district. So, for example, the budget for education is $37.6 billion. That includes federal, state, and local monies. And it was clear to me that a mistake was made by the city council to not look at the preliminary budget, and now they are trying to correct that. But they seem to have an unwilling partner, at least coming to terms that they agree to. The unwilling partner is not the chancellor, it's the mayor. And the mayor, we say, has, people says, well, why does he have mayoral control if he's not willing to talk to parents about the issues and concerns about restoring that?
So yeah, we're almost out of time, Senator. So it sounds like to me you're looking for leadership from City Hall on that. I mean,
that's the money is there.
Right.
The money is absolutely there. The question is, how do you spend it? And parents are saying class size reduction is extremely important in the process, especially the pandemic over the past 2 years.
I'm sorry to cut you short, but we're going to invite you back. Senator Robert Jackson, congrats on the primary win. Same congratulations to Nathalia Fernandez and Giustavo Rivera. And that is all for Bronx Talk tonight. You know we're going to have them back as time goes on, but we wanted to make sure everybody can see who won in the primary, and we'll see you all next week. Good night.
See you next week.